Good to see everybody. We'll get started here in just about 2.5 minutes. Welcome back, everybody, to the Sleuth Intuition channel. I'm your host, Patrick Vallejos, broadcasting to the world live from Phoenix, Arizona. What is up, everybody? Good to see you. Today, we are going to take a deep dive inside the mind of a killer. We will be listening to some interviews with some well-known and not so well-known serial killers. We're going to be listening to some doctors explain exactly what makes these folks tick. We're going to learn about some of the different personality disorders that are associated with killers, and also talk about the stigma surrounding some of those personality disorders. So we'll talk a little bit about sociopathy, schizophrenia, psychopathy, borderline personality disorder. But we're not going to spend too much time on that. We're really going to go through a lot of these different cases. We'll spend a lot of time on Joel Rifkin, an unknown case of Michael Shane Townsend, Benjamin Reed, Alonzo Brown. We'll also touch a little bit on Tommy Lynn Sells, a little bit on Ted Bundy and Rex Heuermann, and a few others like the Green River Killer. We'll listen to some doctors try to help explain to us what's going on, the difference between a normal brain and somebody who is considered psychopathic and what might be causing that. But first, I want to welcome in Christine, Jerry, Cindy, Kelly, Zoe, Brad, Shane, Yankee, and Miracle Hearts. So because of time, we're going to get started right away. I think it's important to understand that just because you suffer from these personality disorders doesn't mean that you're prone to violent crime. I think what we're going to learn today is that you may just have a tendency, but a lot goes into it. So let's start here. How to treat individuals who are mentally unstable. Welcome in, caricature. Serial killer behavior isn't based solely on sociopathic or psychopathic traits, but also social and environmental influences, traumatic or abusive experiences, and mental illness. Being diagnosed with ASPD, which is antisocial personality disorder, or BPD, which is borderline personality disorder, or schizophrenia, doesn't mean an individual is a sociopath or a psychopath. There are many people with these mental health diagnoses who are nonviolent and never hurt or kill anyone. Although each mental health condition has its own set of signs and symptoms, professional help may be needed if someone shares thoughts or statements about harming others or displays excessively angry, hostile, or violent behavior. Consistent treatments, such as a combination of medication and psychotherapy, can help mentally unstable individuals manage their symptoms and live meaningful, productive lives. If you or a loved one is struggling with their mental health, help is available. Restore Mental Health offers services designed to treat various mental illnesses, helping individuals get the care and emotional support they need. So I think we should start there. Welcome in, Perry Winkle, Yvonne T, Frankie Christian. Welcome in, Jari. How you doing? Hey, Kelly. I appreciate that. And you guys, if I get anything wrong, we're just here to learn, right? We're just doing our best to understand what makes a killer tick. Really, we need to know our enemy. Just watched a 3-part documentary on John Wayne Gacy. It blew me away. Going to bother me for a long time. Olivia, too. Welcome in. Welcome in, Mark in Indy. Okay, so let's look at some of these personality disorders. Let's see. I think we can start with borderline personality disorder. Borderline personality disorder is a mental health condition that affects the way people feel about themselves and others, making it hard to function in everyday life. It includes a pattern of unstable, intense relationships, as well as impulsiveness, an unhealthy way of seeing themselves. Impulsiveness involves having extreme emotions and acting or doing things without thinking about them first. People with borderline personality disorder have a strong fear of abandonment or being left alone. Even though they want to have loving and lasting relationships, the fear of being abandoned often leads to mood swings and anger. It also leads to impulsiveness and self injury that may push others away. Borderline personality disorder usually begins by early adulthood. The condition is most serious in young adulthood. Mood swings, anger, and impulsiveness often get better with age, but the main issues of self image and fear of being abandoned, as well as relationship issues, go on. If you have borderline personality disorder, know that many people with this condition get better with treatment. They can learn to live stabler, more fulfilling lives. What's up, Timmy? Welcome in. Big Bird's in the building. What's up? Welcome in. Amelia, what's up? Hello, hello. Frankie Christian, Rick Allen's mental illness is unique. Comes and goes when discovery is dumps go when he hears he has support. I don't know. We're going to look at a very strange case of Benjamin Reed, where he was faking symptoms to try to lean towards an insanity plea. But The court was fully aware of it, and they still deemed him mentally unfit or mentally ill. So both things can be true at the same time. You can fake being crazy and actually be crazy. Thank you, Jari. You guys can always hit me up if you need to get a hold of me directly at sleuthintuition@gmail.com. Don't hesitate. All right, let's look at schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is a serious mental health condition that affects how people think, feel, and behave. It may result in a mix of hallucinations, delusions, and disorganized thinking and behavior. Hallucinations involve seeing things or hearing voices that aren't observed by others. Delusions involve firm beliefs about things that are not true. People with schizophrenia can seem to lose touch with reality, which can make daily living very hard. People with schizophrenia need lifelong treatment. This includes medicine, talk therapy, and help in learning how to manage daily life activities. Because many people with schizophrenia don't know they have a mental health condition and may not believe they need treatment, many research studies have examined the results of untreated psychosis. People who have psychosis that is not treated often have more severe symptoms, more stays in a hospital, poorer thinking and processing skills, and social outcomes, injuries, and even death. On the other hand, early treatment often helps control symptoms before serious complications arise, making the long term outlook better. What's up? Anything I like? Welcome in. I'll agree with that, Kelly. I think in most cases. Shane, it's good to see you. The more I delve into killers, I'm starting to think it's biological. It can be. Um, um, at least that's what they believe with people like Ted Bundy. Miracle Hearts, good to see you. What up, Mustang? Good to see you, Ziggy. How's everybody's Labor Day weekend going? Welcome in, Frankie Christian. Wonder what the diagnosis is for eating paperwork and not to eventually your feces sounds like fake to me, although I'm not a mental health professional. Not quite sure. But one thing I've learned today is that you can fake it and also be it. So you can be suffering from some kind of mental illness and still be trying to, not even know it and be trying to fake it to the court. So both things can be true at the same time. Good to see you, Cindy. Don Spain, what's up? Good to see you, my friend. Mother of Dragons, how are you? Okay, now let's look at 6 common signs of a sociopath. They can be harder to spot than a psychopath, says psychotherapists. Good to see you, Peace Train. Jari says most serial killers have mother that was emotionally unavailable to them. Yeah, another thing I found interesting was 86.5% of serial killers met the criteria when it comes to psychopathy. I didn't expect the number to be that high. And that was 3 different studies. Amelia says a person with schizophrenia is not more capable of murder than anyone else. They are more commonly victimized. However, when they do murder, they are caught disorganized. Yeah, the numbers were a lot lower for schizophrenia. The numbers are higher for schizophrenia when it came to self-harm and psychosis. Shane says abuse in early development doesn't help, but why do some people go on to kill and others don't? Empathy is very important. Remember, you're not insane. If you're a psychopath, it doesn't mean that you're insane. It just means you lack certain things. You still know the difference between right and wrong, and you still are considered to have tendencies to be, more likely to become a killer, but it doesn't mean you will be. They're saying that a lot of things that play into that will be like environmental influences, traumatic or abusive experiences. So you already have an uphill battle if you're suffering from one of these disorders, but if you're abused as a child, that makes it even that much more hard or more likely that you may become a violent offender. Right. This was published October of 2022. A psychotherapist, I've spent much of my career studying interpersonal relationships and personality disorders, and even trained personnel in the U.S. military, the FBI, and the CIA. On topic, I find the most interesting is sociopathy, which is a term used to describe antisocial personality disorder. Sociopaths can wreak havoc in your life, and they can be harder to spot than a psychopath. Looks like you're looking for something to make you look crazy. No, actually, it's the opposite. Some folks don't look crazy. I think that's kind of the point. Cindy says close male friend went from normal to schizophrenic at 25. Textbook case. Took a few years for the family to acknowledge it. Could have harmed somebody, and he had the best heart. Yeah, you have better chances if you get treatment and you seek help. But the stigma is pretty ugly. Frankie says Ted Bundy said, I'm a nice guy, but I can be one mean son of a bitch. Oh, yeah. He says he was an all-American boy on the outside. But I don't believe anything he says. At least people like Tommy Lynn Sells was honest. He said, when you look at me, you're looking at evil and hatred. Yikes. Yep, and the ability to control yourself. You know the difference between right and wrong. It's just some people choose. All right, common signs of a sociopath. Psychopaths tend to be more manipulative and minimize risk in criminal activities. Sociopaths, on the other hand, are typically more erratic and rage prone and subsequently more dangerous. Here are some of the most common signs to look for in a sociopath. They know right from wrong, but couldn't care less. When it comes to delineating right and wrong to the sociopath, what is right is simply what is in their own best interest. If it serves them well, they believe their actions are completely justified. This means that sociopaths feel zero remorse, no matter who is hurt or harmed in the process, and they move with little anxiety because they live without fear of disconnection. Number two, their personality is crafted to engage and enchant in order to bond and manipulate. Some sociopaths lack impulse control and suffer from a range of addictive and self destructive behaviors and habits. But the ones who are able to delay gratification and play the long game are the most harmful because they are meticulous and polished. They typically make an exceptionally good first impression and come across as warm, empathetic, and even altruistic. Number three, they don't always seem genuinely honest. A sociopath has no real sense of self, so they struggle with maintaining the impression that they create and project to the world. They are already wearing a mask, and dishonesty is another mask on top of that. This means that when they lie, they might sound like a caricature of an honest person rather than a genuinely honest person. For example, a sociopath might sound like a broken record and use phrases that are absolute. For example, I am 100% not guilty, or I promise I never did that, in an attempt to sell the truth. Number four, they they know how to get your blood boiling. Sociopaths know how to push the right psychological buttons to gain control in a relationship. Once they've achieved a degree of compliance, they'll seek to undermine their target's emotional stability. This is why they love the unpredictable. Most personality disorders have this in common. Sometimes their behavior, such as running hot and cold, is due to the particular disorder. Other times it's purely tactical. Number five, their worst tendencies quickly surface when they feel they are losing control over you. When a sociopath finds out that you are not obedient, they'll move into attack mode. Say goodbye to the veneer of civility. They'll hurl every accusation at you and about you to anyone who will listen: friends, neighbors, family members, and coworkers. Number six, they display false humility. Another giveaway is a false vulnerability. Sociopaths may show great humility by making themselves seem meek and unassuming. The unskilled observer may believe that this is the sociopath unmasked, yet it's just another mask. Again, the tip off is that they go overboard since they have a hard time calibrating their impression management. Very interesting. Now, the one that I think killers mainly suffer from will be psychopathic traits. And then we'll get into the thick of things here in a minute once we go over that. Yeah, that's interesting, Cindy. Hey, Anna. A number of male serial killers have had significant head trauma and brain injury. Really? Can you post those statistics? I didn't run into that. What's up, James Tate? Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for hanging out and participating in the chat. I appreciate it. Schizophrenia is likely caused by a viral infection. Yeah, most ex-girlfriends, right? That's what makes them the ex. It's the manipulation for me. It's like, no, no, thank you. No free will, huh? The scariest people enjoy hurting others and are very rare, I'd guess. Yeah, probably like 1% of the population are sexual sadists, maybe. I think I read that. I could be wrong. Maybe somebody can correct me on that. Heather, welcome in. Good to see you. Yeah, I think they just learn at a young age, Anna, you know. I always use the example of somebody torturing animals, right? They're showing their friends, like, look, I killed this cat or this animal. And they're like, what the hell are you doing? Like, that's disgusting. And they're like, well, you don't think it's cool? And then right then and there, they just learn, right? Like, hey, I got in trouble for this, or I lost a bunch of friends, or everybody's looking at me like I'm a weirdo. I need to hide this, or I need to do it in private from now on. They learn early on that they're not the same as everyone else. Head injury comes up a lot in the serial killer cases. It was mentioned in the Gacy's case. Oh, I was right. 1% of 300 million. Thank you for posting that. I knew it was something like that. All right. Psychopathic traits. According to psychopathy.org, which was co-founded by Abigail Marsh, a psychologist and neuroscientist at Georgetown University. These are some of the key traits that manifest an extreme psychopathy. Callous and selfish approach to interpersonal relationships. A lack of empathy in response to others' suffering or distress. Does not show remorse after hurting others or breaking rules. Little sense of identity or self. Manipulates people to get things. Engages in risky or dangerous activities. And this is the one that I've noticed the most studying true crime, is the superficial charm. That's part of their whole chameleon practices. Okay, so I think those are some of the personality disorders that are linked with killers and serial killers. But not everybody who suffers from these personality disorders is going to be a violent criminal, right? So I think we can start right here. I think this is from CNN. What causes someone to become a serial killer? Let's watch this quick video here. Might help if I share my screen. Okay.
Beach murders. A source involved with the investigation tells CNN that investigators think the suspect, Rex Heuermann, may have committed the killings inside his Long Island, New York home. We've learned that some of the victims disappeared when his family was out of town, suggesting he may have lured them to his house. Heuermann is now behind bars, charged with the murder and the deaths of 3 of the Gilgo 4, the 4 women whose remains were found on Long Island's Gilgo Beach back in 2010. Let's discuss all of this with Scott Bond. He is a criminologist. He's also the author of Why We Love Serial Killers and the host of the podcast, The Killing Hour with Doc Bond. Scott, appreciate your time this morning. Good morning to you. You know, one of the most disturbing details about the case is that the suspect was living this double life. And you predicted back in 2011 that the killer would be someone who can walk into a room and seem like your average Joe. Elaborate, please.
Yeah, absolutely. This type of serial killer is in my mind similar to a Ted Bundy or a John Wayne Gacy, in that they have seemingly normal lives with even family, a successful business career, respected by the community itself, and yet they've got this alter ego, if you will, that they transform into and become a diabolical, torturous killer. And it's through psychological compartmentalization, which is an ability, almost like flipping a switch, to just transform into almost like another being.
Chris Watts.
This is what enables him and others like him to not suffer any emotional consequences, anxiety, guilt, cognitive dissonance when they do so. It's almost like they just become another person.
So his ability, or a serial killer's ability to compartmentalize, does it make it likely then that Heuermann's family, his wife and children, may truly have had no idea that something like this could potentially have happened inside their home?
As strange as it may seem to the layman, this is not uncommon. In fact, I've been comparing this serial killer to another named Dennis Rader, who actually gave himself a name: Bind, Torture, Kill. He was similar to this. John Wayne Gacy killed people in his own home. Jeffrey Dahmer killed people in his apartment. So it's not uncommon at all. Serial killers operate in a comfort zone. They like being in control. They're ultimate control freaks, in fact. So they want to be.
Let's go to Frankie Christian real quick. Don't agree with why we love serial killers. Yeah, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way too. It's like nobody loves, unless they're suffering from hybristophilia or whatever. But I don't know if he was trying to be ironic or coy or whatever. But yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, I don't love serial killers. I'm fascinated by them. I would like to understand what makes them tick. And the more we learn, the more we can protect our families, from them.
An environment that they feel the master of that universe, and that includes the home. But they're so meticulous, they're such good planners that they're able to then clean up the crime scene, take the bodies, in this case, to a desolated area where they were dismembered, wrapped up, and carefully placed in an isolated area. No, this is just part of this type of serial killer who's a meticulous planner. Not all serial killers are this way. Some are more like wild animals, and they blitz their victim and leave them where they die. But not this guy. This guy was a planner, organized, and highly, highly meticulous.
So remember, he's kind of talking about the difference between a psychopath and a sociopath. From what we learned early on in the live stream, a sociopath might kill in a fit of rage. Is more likely to kill in a fit of rage if the killer is suffering from that disorder. Okay, this was a very good interview here. I think we'll go here next.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Great Day Houston. Our first segment is the stuff that Hollywood movies are made of. We're intrigued by it because most of us fear it and we simply don't understand it. The mind of a serial killer. These psychopaths can be charming, as the world saw with Ted Bundy 30 years ago.
Part of the shock and horror for my dear friends and family years ago when I was first arrested was that there was no clue. They looked at me and they looked at the all-American boy, and I wasn't perfect, but I want to be quite candid with you. I was okay.
Our first guest has studied many serial killers, including the Bundy case. Dr. Daryl Turner stopped by recently to share the latest research on the makeup of a serial killer.
Dr. Turner, you were a psychologist for a high-security prison.
That's right.
And you...
Up real quick, let's go to the super chat. Thank you, Miss Dog Lover, for sponsoring today's live stream. I'm sorry to put a downer on the stream, but I wanted to pay tribute to my beautiful dog, Ellie, who passed. Oh, my gosh. Sorry to hear that. Rest in peace, Ellie. God, I hate hearing about that. She helped my family through some awful times after we lost my brother. Thank you, beautiful girl. Yeah, that's hard. The majority of our senior dogs passed in the last 5 years, and we have one left, Athena, and she's just heartbroken. She just kind of mopes around. So I'm really worried about her. I'm sorry to hear that, Miss Doglover. Thank you for the super chat.
Focused on those cases where people just kind of shake their head and go, I don't understand it. I can't believe it. The stuff that shows like Criminal Minds are made out of.
Right.
What brought you into that area, especially when it comes to serial killers?
It was something that I was always interested in. And then as I went through school and had certain professors, the research that we were doing kind of lended itself to sexual predators, violent offenders, offenders who have sadistic sexual interests. And as you start to work and do research and you meet people, then that just sort of shapes your career.
Yeah.
But it was always an area of interest for me.
Yeah. You've worked with several serial killers. You've interviewed several. I interviewed about 3. And what I found was each one of them, this is weird to say, each one of them, they were so nice and calm and sweet. And so it's bizarre, but you say that's how they can do what they can do.
Well, sure, because how else are they going to get you into the car? Right. We think of serial killers and we think of these hunchback, drooling on themselves, ambush kind of people, but really, the most successful ones, and I use that term loosely, but the ones who are most able to gain access to victims are the ones that can let people's guard down or make people feel somewhat safe.
Yeah. All right. So are serial killers born or made?
That's a question that I think if I could answer, I'd be sitting on my own private island somewhere. I think it's a combination. I think like most things in life, it's a combination. I think there are some genetic predispositions there that if certain, as you and I were talking on the break, if certain environmental factors are met, then it can lead to a very dangerous combination. But I don't think it's all one or all the other.
Yeah. All right. Let's go through some of the myths.
Okay.
That if you're a serial killer, they kill the same type and there's a certain mode of operation they do every time. We see this in all the criminal shows.
Sure.
We talk about this.
That is not true. When we look at, so for example, the Son of Sam killer in New York City was famous for shooting couples in parked cars. His first attempt at attacking females was actually with a knife. He didn't like it for whatever reason. John Wayne Gacy in Chicago, the same thing. His first male victim, he had him at his house and he used a knife. And I don't want to be too graphic on your morning show, but he didn't like some of the aspects of that. And so
yeah, we talk about how killers are trying to find their MO, their modus operandi, their mode of operation. Sometimes like a gateway crime will be used, poisoning or arson, because it's easier. They're trying to figure out how they can get close to their victims. And a lot of times it's through trial and error.
You change and you modify. And one thing is that we tend to think of serial killers almost like this Batman supervillain type of person that sits in their lair and thinks about how they're going to trick police and stuff like that. But these are human beings who make mistakes and drive around and maybe see a victim when they're intoxicated and they don't have their tools with them, and so they adapt and they change. They tend to,
because the ultimate thing is to kill however they have, by any means necessary.
Exactly, and that can be a problem for investigators who rule out a certain offense because it doesn't.
Yeah, Kelly, a good example will be the Zodiac. He would, he was trying to figure out how to get his hands on his victims. He would get behind a vehicle. He would see a lone woman on a dark, street alone, and he would flash them. He'd flag them down saying, hey, your tires, your back tire is wobbly. It's loose. Are you aware of that? And they'd be like, oh, thank you for helping. And then instead of tightening the tire, it was never loose to begin with. And he would actually loosen all of the lug nuts. That way, when she tried to speed off or continue down the road, the tire would actually fall off. And he used that MO for quite a while.
Following MO when actually it may have just been an odd set of circumstances that led the killer to doing it a little differently that time.
We oftentimes think that they're only white men.
Right.
Not the case.
Not the case. As America becomes more and more assimilated, there's a famous line in Silence of the Lambs where she says serial killers tend to hunt in their own ethnicity. And I think that was true for a time, but it's dangerous now to make that assumption. There was a serial killer case that I worked peripherally on out of Baton Rouge, Derek Todd Lee, who was an African-American male who had predominantly Caucasian victims. And I remember an African-American victim showed up and everyone was just astonished. Oh my gosh, what does this mean? What is this? What is this message he's sending?
It was a matter of convenience,
and it was just someone that he met that he was attracted to.
Yeah.
So not all white men. And again, as America becomes more assimilated, I think we're seeing crossing ethnic boundaries.
Because sometimes if you're within your community, that's just what's in your community, right?
Sure. And have you ever found yourself attracted to, a person of this ethnicity or a person of that age group, which is maybe outside of your norm? Of course you have.
Yeah. All right. The other myth is that they can't stop killing once they've started.
Right. This is something that for a long time we really believed. Boy, these guys get going and they're trucking along and they're ramping up and they're increasing in their intensity and they don't stop unless they die or they go to prison.
Yeah.
And what we've learned over the last several decades is that that's simply not true.
And it seems like sometimes it's their coping mechanism. And so that's when they kill and then things get back on level. Let's say, for example, they lost a job.
Exactly.
And then they go berserk and then they get a job and then they go back to their normal life, right?
Well, if there's one thing that we've learned from Ted Bundy is that it's important to look at these individuals as human beings, people that have wives and jobs and divorces and the measles and exactly. And so there are things that can interrupt a pattern of killing. And so guys like BTK and the Green River Killer went decades without killing.
Yeah. All right. We've also heard that if you have a child who has the trifecta of bedwetting, setting fires, and hurting pets,
the triad.
Watch out.
Well, that is a dangerous combination, and I can't say that it's not. It is. If you see that in your child, it's something that you may want to address or get that child into therapy or something like that. The bedwetting or enuresis is something that's kind of been taken out of that trifecta because there are so many children that are affected by enuresis who don't necessarily have these other conduct disordered behaviors. So, but if someone's playing with fire and skipping school,
certainly hurting animals,
hurting animals, keeping dead animals, experimenting with them, that's a problem. There's something going on there that needs to.
There was a female serial killer in Phoenix, Arizona before she was busted. And you can actually go see her story on the series Signs of a Psychopath. She murdered basically, I think she said over 24 cats in her neighborhood. So anytime you see a high number of missing cats or animals, I always get alarmed, when I hear that anywhere near my own home.
Be addressed.
All right. All serial killers are psychopaths, but not all psychopaths are serial killers. What is a psychopath or sociopath? And sometimes we see those kind of used with each other.
Right. They're interchangeable. I think a psychopath is someone who is unable to empathize with other people. So, and there have been some really interesting studies that show that when a psychopath looks at pictures of human faces exhibiting universal emotion, shock or fear, their brain doesn't light up the same way our brain lights up, assuming we're not psychopaths.
Yeah, right.
So there is a physical difference in their ability to empathize with other people. It's simply not there. And then there are also
which is what makes it easy for.
Let's go to the super chat. Another one by Miss Dog Lover. Thank you so much. Thank you all. We have Daisy, who is 8, Alfie, who is 18 months and keeps stealing shoes. Oh my gosh, that's Indy and Luna. Gosh, we've gone through like 6 spatulas in the last week. Like I'll make breakfast and every time I forget, I leave it right there. He has to chew it up. Oh, it drives me crazy.
Them to hurt or kill people, right?
Of course.
There's no emotion.
Of course, and sleep at night and live with themselves, right? But there's also this sense that they're out for themselves, that what they want is what they're going to get, and it doesn't matter who they have to step on to get it. Now, if they have a sexually deviant urge that requires hurting people or victimizing people, then you can end up with a serial killer. Yeah. But if you have psychopathy and you have no sexually deviant urge, you might just end up in politics. Or you might just end up like Bernie Madoff or something like that.
A lot of top executives and
I read a report that stated a lot of U.S. presidents were psychopaths. Not sexual deviants, but psychopaths. And a lot of industry leaders.
Politicians have some of these psychopathic traits. And it's interesting because even kind of that narcissistic trait as well. Raphael Resendez, who was a serial killer who terrorized Houston and other communities around Houston, sent a letter to my house.
Good to see you.
And we had written a letter to him, Cynthia Hunt, who was a reporter at the time, written a letter to him saying, you know, I have a dog too. I understand that you love your dog more than anything. He says, my dog was the best to me. My dog understood me. And so when she wrote that letter to him and she basically connected with him over the dog, he decided to send a letter, and it came to my house, and he outlined the reason why he killed everybody. He justified the reason why he killed everybody. And he thought that, you know, it made sense, you know, and so that, again, that narcissistic moment, you can't just go killing people, but to him, he said, I did the right thing.
He did the right thing, and he expects you to understand where he's coming from when he tells you that he did the right thing, which is almost equally as scary.
Yeah. All right. A psychopath or sociopath is oftentimes drawn to strong, successful people. It's a greater challenge and more rewarding. And if they have that narcissistic moment thinking that they're at a high level, then they only want to be around high level people.
That's right. Absolutely. So when you think of psychopathy in the white collar world, and you think of psychopathy among board members, politicians, people like that, who are quite willing to crush someone else to get to the top or something like that, you do see that sense of, you know, the higher level in society person I can take down, that makes me that much higher.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's right. Caricature says, can you imagine wanting to hurt an animal? Hardly anyone could. Yeah, most people who hate humans, they still have love for animals. So anybody that feels the need to hurt animals or torture animals, that's a huge red flag for sure.
All right, through association, right?
Sure.
1 to 4% of the general population. So that means, like in Houston, maybe as many as 23,000 psychopaths.
Right.
Not necessarily killers, but psychopaths.
Right.
What to look for, and this is one of those things where these traits are what to look for in case somebody might be dangerous to you, or even in relationships, right? Highly narcissistic and overconfident. We talked about that. Some other things.
There's going to be a shallow sense of emotion. So when you're in situations where people would have a normal reaction, a funeral, or, you know, watching The Notebook or something like that, your partner is going to tend to not have that emotional reaction. They're on the shallow end of the pool, if you will. There's also a callousness. There's a tendency to lie. They lie very, very, very easily. These guys lie sometimes when it would be even easier to tell the truth.
Right.
Very oftentimes there's a parasitic lifestyle, promiscuous sexual behavior. By parasitic lifestyle, I mean they live off of the graces of other people while making it seem that they're there to help or being the hero. So
don't accept responsibility for their mistakes and become aggressive quickly.
Right.
All right. Early detection. Do you think you could go to a junior high school and hang around the kids for about a week and pick out, not necessarily that serial killer, but that one who has the tendency?
I love that question. I hope so. I think that
I think I've seen them. That might be all junior high kids.
Right. I think we could pick out children that are more likely to end up with problems than other children. Now, whether or not they're going to act out sexually because of some type of sadistic urge, I think we'd have to do a bit more digging.
When it comes to the police work side, what's been different since Ted Bundy, and I want to talk about that in a second, because we're coming up on that anniversary, is that we have DNA today. DNA has been kind of a game changer beyond just being able to match the DNA to the person who's done a crime. The Golden State Killer, for example, was caught with DNA, and explain to folks how that happened. And does that type of thing run in families?
Well, we do see sometimes. So you mentioned Ted Bundy. So in Ted Bundy's case, the man that raised Ted Bundy, or Ted Bundy's grandfather, who was some believed to be his actual father, was a very angry, sadistic fellow. So again, I think there's a genetic component to it. But with DNA, so that's what earlier when we were talking about how things have changed and our investigative strategies have changed. In some of these cases where there's these cold cases and we have a victim and we have DNA on the scene, and then lo and behold, it pops up that it's a victim of Henry Lee Lucas or someone like that, we are finding out that, well, but she was strangled as opposed to stabbed, or she was shot as opposed to. So we're learning that, hey, DNA can't be argued against, and this is a victim of this killer. It was just done in a very different way, so he was never even assumed or looked at that time as a suspect.
And how to find people is like, that the whole 23andMe and Ancestry.com, all that type of stuff, family tree. All of a sudden you go, okay, well, this person is a relative of that person. Do you know what that person is? And so you can actually connect the dots, if you will.
Right,
Let me wrap up with Ted Bundy, because it really did change the way law enforcement and people in the medical community looked at the so-called serial killer.
Right. So the detective that was the lead detective in that case was Dr. Robert Keppel. He wasn't a doctor at the time, but it was one of the most fascinating things about the Ted Bundy case to me that I think a lot of people don't know is that it was the first time that there was a computer program used. Now we're talking 1973, so the computer was probably about the size of this room, right? It was the first time that a computer was used in an investigation of a serial killer. That wasn't even a term that was used a lot back then, but they were inundated with tips. Someone had overheard him use the name Ted when abducting a victim. So they knew that was either an alias or that was his real name. So they had other things they knew, like the Volkswagen bug and things like that. They had about 4 or 5 things.
Good-looking guy, nice guy.
Right, that they knew he had to meet all of these criteria to be their person. And so they're inundated with thousands and thousands and thousands of tips. And so they programmed this computer to kind of shuffle through them and spit out just the ones that meet all of those criteria. And so it's this smaller stack of maybe 100 guys out of all those thousands. And he was
let's go to Frankie Christian real quick. Ted Bundy, in that interview you showed, went on to blame pornography, which I found interesting. Yeah, I found that extremely interesting. He said his sadism was progressive. It was gradually getting worse and worse. He needed more and more of that thrill. And it started with porn, and then it went to violent porn, and then violent sex, angry sex, things like that. Yeah, very interesting. That's a great point.
3 down when they caught him in Utah. So I believe, and a lot of people believe, it was only a matter of time before they would have really focused their investigation on him.
Yeah, all right. January 24th, the 30th anniversary of his execution.
That's right.
Wow. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the type of guy that goes to a party and is stuck in the corner by the punch bowl, because when we find out what you do, we're not letting go of you, right?
That's right.
But unfortunately, TV time, I got to let go of you.
I just tell people I'm a counselor.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Counselor my ass. All right. So welcome in, everybody. If you're just joining, good to see you, CJK, Peggy. Yeah, there is something about the eyes of a serial killer. They say the eyes are the windows to the soul. You know, those are windows into an empty room, maybe. Yeah, things are definitely different now than when I was a kid, Frankie. That's for sure. You know, and maybe that means we're going to have a lot more deviant youth running around. Not all caricature. Caricature says it's so weird how they all have wives and normal lives. What's that about? Not all of them, just certain types. And I think those are more the psychopathic. You know, we've learned the sociopathic are those who are overwhelmed with rage. But the psychopathic are the ones that are going to sit around and plan out these murders. They're the majority of family annihilators, like Chris Watts, right? You're living a normal life. You seem to have a great family. You have a beautiful wife, beautiful husband, children. And then one day you meet a new girl at work, you know, a new hire or somebody, you know, you meet a new love interest, and you just completely murder your family so that you can start a new life. You kind of shed them like a snake sheds skin because you just don't care. Complete obliteration of your family is an option that's always there. It's always on the table for these sickos. Okay, so let's go to this interview with Lynn Sells. Now, this guy is one of the most, I mean, I really don't know how to describe this guy. He's extremely honest about what he's done. He's unlike Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy likes to give excuses and he likes to create all these fairy tales about why he does what he does. Lynn Sells, he just tells it like it is. And there's something more terrifying about that, I think. Check this out.
Inside the mind of one of the most evil men in America. He's a notorious and admitted serial killer. And in the last 48 hours, his story has come to a dramatic conclusion. We got a rare and chilling interview with him for our series, Crime and Punishment.
The first time I killed somebody, and it was such a rush.
Lynn Sells, one of the most infamous serial killers in modern history. A man who says he belongs on death row.
I was raised to do time. I wasn't raised to live out there in that world.
Sells was convicted of killing 13-year-old Katie Harris, stabbing her to death in her bedroom.
I like to use a knife. A gun is too violent, too noisy, but just fit my hand well.
And later, he admitted to killing dozens more. So many, he says he can't even keep track.
I'm not Billy the Kid making notches on my holster, so I know it's been a lot.
Addicted to killing is the way he characterized it.
I don't have an on and off switch. I'm just after that drug. I'm after that.
Doesn't even try to hide it.
Nightline interviewed Sells on death row in 2010. One of the rare.
Yeah, Cindy, Scott Peterson. I think Netflix just put out a really good series on Scott Peterson and the Lacey Peterson murder. Very interesting. Yep. There's a good example of a family annihilator right there. And a psychopath, right? He seems completely normal, no criminal history, very successful in his career, appears to have it all. A loving family, great house, everything you could ever want, the American dream. And then finds a new woman and sheds his old family like a snake sheds skin in brutal fashion.
Glimpses into the mind of a serial killer.
It's complicated. When people enter my life, they get hurt.
Sells is directly linked to over a dozen murders. The drifter's vagrant lifestyle helped him elude police for nearly 15 years as victims turned up from coast to coast.
When you look at me, you know what hate is, because I don't know what love is. Two words I don't like to use is love and sorry, because I'm about hate.
His methods for killing were as random as the people he targeted. He raped many before cutting their throats or beating them, stabbing others. He strangled some.
A lot of jerking, a lot of movement. It's a physical, you become part of it.
And described it all with seeming detachment from the horrors he caused.
I don't have no feelings no more, no emotion, no.
And no remorse.
And I like to watch the eyes fade, the pupil fade. It's just like setting their soul free.
We asked Sells what would happen if we said something that angered him.
If we was in a fight and get your head down in the concrete, then so be it. But well, what do you think happened? It cracks like a coconut.
So how did he become this monster? Sells blames much of his murderous rage on sexual abuse he says he suffered as a child.
I think every time I killed that guy that molested me all them years. I seen that in my mind over and over.
Yet children.
Let's go to Shane here. Says Scott is guilty as hell. 100% that dude is guilty. I don't even know why he's putting forth that effort. Yeah, definitely. I agree with you, Shane.
Children were among his victims.
I didn't want him to live through the pain I lived through.
I tried to get in this door right here.
It was Katie Harris's murder that finally ended his killing spree.
It was this person here who caused me to make sure that I keep all the windows locked in my home, all the doors locked, the gate locked, and to have cameras that were even backup cameras that runs on separate batteries, its own separate energy source, was this case right here, and the way he explains how he broke into this home.
Days later, Tommy Lynn Sells walked police through the crime scene.
And I opened the window all the way up, well, about like this, and I climbed in.
We kind of stayed up a little later, and we got in a little fight about where we were all going to sleep. We laid there and talked a bit. We talked about the time, like Britney Spears and NSYNC.
Crystal Searles, 10 years old at the time, is one of his few survivors. She was sleeping over at Katie's house that night. More than a decade later, it's all still fresh in her memory.
I woke up startled a little bit and out of nowhere, and I was kind of confused to a loud noise.
I woke this girl up.
Her friend Katie was asleep on the bottom bunk.
I cut her bra.
And I could see that there was this scary older man that I'd never seen before.
I stabbed her here. And then she jumped back, and then I cut her like this right here.
He had a hand on her mouth and the knife on her neck, and she's looking at me, and he just cut her throat, and she fell to the ground.
And she fell down right here.
13-year-old Katie Harris lay dying on the floor.
He was about to shut off the light, and he looked one last time, and he noticed that I was there. And he didn't hesitate at all. I mean, just shut the door, came right back towards me with the knife.
I walked over here, and I went like this.
The only thing that he said is, move your hands, because I had him up here, and he reached over the top bunk and cut my neck.
Sells
I don't know,
Crystal's
Peggy.
neck, severing her windpipe and grazing her carotid artery.
I am very sure he thought he killed me.
Crystal Searles identified Tommy Lynn Sells as the assailant.
To be honest, he seemed blank. I mean, there was no emotion.
Psychopaths are individuals who lack conscience, they lack remorse, they lack guilt. And that's one of the reasons why they terrorize society so
Me
much.
too, Cheeks. Me too.
Experts like Dr. Adrian Rains say Sells offers a textbook example of the mind of a serial killer. He's been studying how and why the adorable little boys pictured here turned into brutal killers. Could it have been the makeup of their brains?
It's biology coming together with environmental insight.
Let's go to this comment real quick by CJK. As a kid, I was in bed with the window up. A peeping Tom looked in my window. I was terrified and finally got up and ran out. My parents had people over playing cards. My dad got his 22 and went outside. Good. These predators are mostly afraid of scary fathers. We've had a lot of predators who had spent time in prison and were willing to come forward and talk about who they targeted and why. It was usually people who were from broken homes, or their parents were addicted to drugs or didn't really pay attention to them. Or they mentioned often weak fathers. So remember that if people are looking at you as a weak father, you're putting your own children at risk.
Assaults, which raise the odds of an individual becoming a violent criminal offender.
Recent research suggests that psychopathy may actually be evident in the brain, and that a simple brain scan
Frontal
could
lobe.
reveal key differences in the minds of serial killers.
It's only recently, with the advent of molecular genetics and brain imaging techniques, that we've been able to peer into the minds of murderers really for the first time.
But for some of the families of his victims, ending that brain function was what was important. Sells was on death row for more than 13 years. The most recent delay? Over the exact makeup of the drug cocktail that would be used to kill him. Sells said the pain of the death penalty paled in comparison to his life.
I suffer more here than
Good.
I'll ever suffer in that grave.
Good, Frankie.
I have to live with it every day now. When they kill me, at least I'll be free then.
Last night, Tommy Lynn Sells' final appeal was rejected. He was executed at 6:27 p.m.
When asked if he wanted to make a last statement, He just simply answered no.
For the family of Katie Harris, it was long overdue.
Now it's a day of closure and celebration. The justice has been served.
You inside the mind of one of the most evil men in America.
All right, guys, let's see. Where are we going from here? Actually, let's take a quick 2-minute break. So if you guys need to go to the restroom or grab a drink of water or whatever, do that now. And then I think we'll move on to the Alonzo Brown case. So this will be a 2-minute little 2-minute break. All righty, quick restroom break and got me a bottled water. We'll give everybody another minute to get back. We'll take this opportunity to catch up on the chat. Mother of Dragons, I sleep with my judge under my pillow. There you go. My husband has protection everywhere here. Yep, that's how I do things. I stay at the gun range. Yep, grab a meatball. Go get yourself a snack. Go to the little boys, little girls' room. Because as soon as dinner's ready, I gotta go. So I think I have a good 45 minutes left here. That's good, CJK. Hey, Copper, welcome in. Good to see you. Thank you for the super sticker, Amelia. I appreciate that. Thank you, Miss Dog Lover and Amelia, for sponsoring today's live stream. I appreciate it. The one with the hot dog walking and the popcorn with arms and legs. Thank you, Cheeks. Yeah, if you guys could hit the like button And if you haven't already shared it, please do. We'll get some more folks in here. Let's see. Let's go over here to Alonzo Brown. Now, Alonzo Brown is, I believe, was out of Las Vegas. He was a Las Vegas serial shooter. Thank you, Copper. All right, you guys, keep a lookout. You may be a Sleuth Crew member and not even know it. Thank you, Copper. I appreciate that. Very generous of you. Boston, how you doing? Welcome in. They say you guys in the U.S. bump into a serial killer 5 times in your life. Half the chat here have already. Oh, yeah. Imagine the creeps that come into my chat. You know, we're real big on cyber crimes and CSAM and sextortion. We've done a lot of exposing of that. I'm sure a lot of people aren't happy about that. You know, the whole dark web. Okay, I think we'll go to the press conference first, and then we'll go to the jailhouse interview. Oh, Timmy got hooked up. And you guys, don't forget we're doing a giveaway. Let me see if I have that. Let me share my screen. So all of you who just became a member, you are now automatically enrolled in the Sleuth Crew merch giveaway. So make sure you go to the members page and you'll see the notification there. It will be next Saturday. I believe that's the 7th. And I have new merch, you guys. I have white t-shirts with black logos. They just came in today. I'm excited. So we have 2X, triple X. We have extra large, large, and medium. So we have black with white logos. We have gray with white or black logos. And then we have white with black logos. So you have to be present to win, though, except for the mods. If you're a mod, we're going to do, and you're not a member, you do not have to be present. So make sure you're there. I think it's at noon. I think I scheduled it for noon Mountain Standard Time, Saturday the 7th, because I have a lot of European members of this channel. I want to make sure they have an opportunity. So make sure you thank Copper Horse if you were gifted a membership, because that automatically enrolls you into the giveaway. Stop that right now. I love that name. I like saying that. Stop that right now. What's up, Scott? The Metalhead. Rock on. Fuck creeps. Especially those internet creeps. Thank you, Boston. I know. I'm so tempted to go on and just to kind of educate myself. And then I'm like, nope, it's not worth it. Mother of Dragons. I just saw a documentary about the Hall brothers caricature contest. They were sick. I am so glad you're okay. Yeah, I'm glad the seasons are changing. We look forward to winter here in Arizona. But all you folks in the Midwest, not so much. Oh, yeah. What's up, Frank? Welcome in. All right, let's get going here. I think we'll start with the press conference. Then we'll move to the jailhouse interview. This was the accused Las Vegas serial killer, Alonzo Brown.
About a major case investigation that involved a suspect that committed multiple homicides. On May 4th, 2020, at around 2 in the morning in the southeast part of town, we received a ShotSpotter alert for 6 gunshots in the area of the 5200 block of East Tropicana. Our officers immediately responded to the area and they found a victim who had been shot and killed on the bus bench. We had limited information at that time. We were able to recover some video surveillance initially, but it was very grainy, as you can see in the photo that'll be shown here on the screen. But nonetheless, just like every homicide investigation, we were very aggressive in working every single lead that we possibly could. And then on June 23rd, which is just this past Thursday, at 2 a.m., or roughly, 3 a.m., in the southeast part of town as well, but near the 5300 block of East Tropicana, we received another ShotSpotter alert, this time with 5 gunshots. Our officers were also in the area conducting patrol operations. They heard the gunshots
Copper,
themselves.
I appreciate it.
They immediately responded. And then we found another victim, this time a male who had been shot and killed and was laying on the sidewalk. Once again, we had limited information about the investigation. We were able to recover some video surveillance, but as you can see, still very grainy footage. But this one was of particular concern for our detectives for a number of reasons. One, this incident was in close proximity to the homicide that just had happened in May. Additionally, the description of the suspect was similar, and the type of weapon that was used was the same 9mm handgun. But what was especially disturbing as they reviewed some of the surveillance footage, they noticed that the suspect seemed to stalk the victim. It appeared to be a random killing. There wasn't any apparent motive from what we could tell. So because of those reasons, we immediately activated our major case protocol, which basically means we bring together a variety of different units from our organization, everything from our investigators in homicide to our intelligence units, technology units, our public information office, our crime analysts, our lab that does all the forensic analysis. But we bring as many units as we possibly can together. We initiate this major case, which means it's a top priority for the organization, and we run it 24/7. So we do everything we possibly can, not only to solve the crimes, but to try to make sure that we don't have another crime happen related to this major case. Now, over the next 72 hours that followed, which is basically this past week, we had a large-scale canvassing effort in the southeast area part of town where our detectives were out there canvassing for video evidence, canvassing for any type of evidence. We conducted numerous interviews.
Let's go to Mother of Dragons real quick. Does anybody know if there's a list of serial killers and what state they are from? That would be interesting to see. No, but I do have a map of unsolved cases that are attributed to serial killers. Most to believe long-haul truckers. Take a look at this. Each one of those red dots represents a body that was dumped near a U.S. highway. Over 500 unsolved murder cases. And a lot of them are attributed to suspects, you know, that they're watching and following. So I'm here in Arizona. So that's terrifying. That looks like the I-10 right there. The I-10 and the I-17. But the East Coast, man, it's terrifying. Florida too. So these are all unsolved murders that are attributed to what they believe are serial killers. And the suspects are all pretty much long haul truck drivers. And the majority of victims are prostitutes, sex workers.
We conducted multiple search warrants. We had 24/7 surveillance operations on any potential suspect that we could identify. Our crime lab worked around the clock to run DNA analysis on any evidence we could collect, as well as any other forensic analysis. And we flooded the area with patrol officers to make sure that it was safe in that area. We do everything we can to try to catch anyone before they did anything else. And I can tell you, as of this past Monday, as we were conducting all of this operation, thanks to that collaborative effort, we were able to identify Alonzo Brown as our suspect. You'll see his mugshot here to my left, your right. We were also able to connect at that time Alonzo Brown to another incident, a shooting where no one was hit, that we believe he committed as well. And then that same day, as we continued, as soon as we had the suspect information and we were aggressively trying to pursue whatever we could to apprehend the suspect, our detectives were canvassing in the area, and they identified a person that matched the description of Alonzo. They followed their instincts, and they took the initiative to call in patrol to stop Alonzo as quickly as possible, or excuse me, who they believed might be Alonzo. Our officers went out on that person. He took off running from them, and our patrol officers did not hesitate. They basically took chase and apprehended him as quickly as possible, and we were able to take him into custody. He did have a firearm in his waistband, as well as another firearm in his backpack. I point that out because certainly the policing job is inherently dangerous, but when you ask our patrol officers to go stop an individual who we suspect is committing multiple homicides, there's another layer of danger there, and our officers did not hesitate. They chased that individual, caught him, and ended up being Alonzo, who now we know is responsible for these murders. I think there's no doubt in my mind that if we wouldn't have caught him as quickly as we did with this major case protocol, he would have committed more violence. And I think that speaks just to the exceptional work of our teams, everyone that was involved. And I think it's worth pointing it out. Our crime lab technicians that were working around the clock through the weekend, running analysis on DNA and other forensics, our investigators, our patrol officers, as I said, they not only flooded the area, but they were doing as many stops they could on anything related to this case. Our various specialized units include our surveillance teams, our technology teams, and the homicide section. Everything from our detectives, the sergeants, the lieutenant who runs that section, as well as the civilian personnel, including our investigative specialists. They all came together, worked incredibly hard, and thanks to their effort, we were able to close out this major case fairly quickly. Just offer from my personal perspective, these murders are very disturbing. I think that, if anything, it's a call for our community to unite against these types of senseless acts of violence. My heart goes out to the victims' families. I hope that the justice of apprehending the person responsible for these murders provides some justice. And I will just end with a message. I think that it's important for those that decide to continue to prey on our community or try to prey on our community. There's no such thing as getting away with murder in Las Vegas. The fact of the matter is we have the best homicide unit in the country, if not the world. Our homicide clearance rate, which is our ability to solve homicides that occur, is at 95% for 2021. It's the highest in the country. And to put that in further perspective, the national average for solving homicides is 61%. We're at 95% and growing. So very important for people to understand that committing crimes in Vegas is not going to work the same way it may work elsewhere. We will do everything we possibly can to solve every single crime, and certainly homicides. And bottom line, the men and women in this department care deeply about doing their jobs. They're passionate about doing it. It showed in this past week as a lot of people worked around the clock and a lot of extra hours. And at the end of the day, we'll do everything we can to keep this city safe and do our part in fighting crime. With that, I'll take some questions, and then we'll wrap it up. Yes?
Is Mr. Brown from Las Vegas?
He does live here. Don't know where he's originally from, but yes, he is a resident in Las Vegas.
Victims, ages?
So both are adult males, Hispanic adult males. I don't have the ages with me, but we can provide that at a later time. They were both adults, though.
Can you talk about each? You mentioned stalking as being part of it. Were the two people both people that he knew? And can you talk about what that kind of entailed in terms of stalking the victims?
At this time, we don't believe that he knew the victims. We don't believe that there was
Right,
any,
Frankie?
traditional criminal
We're not gonna
motives
talk
such as
about that.
drugs or a robbery or anything like that. Our concern for this one was that it appeared much more random. And what I mean by stalking is that now, from additional video surveillance, everything we think in both incidents, he picked out a target and stalked that target until he ended up going up and killing that person.
Is there any indication or any evidence that the two firearms recovered from Mr. Brown were the ones used in those incidents?
We do believe we've recovered the firearm involved in these two murders, yes.
Mr. Brown, I mean, the age.
You know what? I don't have the age off the top of my head, and I don't want to guess wrong. Young adult is what I would tell you. I will also tell you no criminal history from what we could find, at least initially.
Sorry to hear that, Anna. Hope you feel better.
We're still conducting the rest of the investigation, so it's very, very hard to get into the details of the interviews that are occurring. But right now, we stand by what I just indicated, which we don't believe the motive was your traditional criminal motive, such as a robbery or a dispute or some kind of issue like that. In these cases, we believe it was random. Anybody else?
You mentioned using footage and canvassing to identify him, but was that the key to identifying who the shooter was the footage, or was it actually going through that major case protocol that ended up being able to identify who the shooter was based on the grainy footage at least initially?
It's a combination. So the major case protocol allows us to bring in additional resources and really unifies everyone behind the top priority. The surveillance footage plus additional video that was canvassed, plus additional evidence that was recovered from the scene, and a variety of other efforts from interviews and everything else came together to make this a success. I have to wrap this up, take one more question, and then we'll have to close this out. Yes, sir. No, I think it's important for the community to know, because of this major case protocol and because the way that our police department handles crime, we were able to catch a suspect as early as possible. And now with him in custody, there's no danger associated to this case. Thank you, folks. Appreciate your time. See you about
So these were the victims here in that crime. Joshua Chaparro Montalvo. And these were just random acts of violence. Paulo Viana. Tevin Al-Hashemi. Now here's an interview with this person.
An accused serial killer breaking his silence with our 8 News Now investigators. Good evening, I'm Denise Valdez.
And I'm Brian Loftus. Police say Alonzo Brown killed 3 people, 3 men in 3 separate shootings earlier this year.
So now Brown is talking about the potential of being put to death, only with our 8 News Now investigator David Sharns.
The normal sane 18-year-old kid is not going ahead and wake up and go on a killing spree.
But police say this now 19-year-old did. Investigators believe Alonzo Brown shot and killed 3 men between January and June.
So what's your message to people who are going to see this and think that you are an accused serial killer?
I'm certainly not an accused serial killer. I'm just a 19-year-old young man trying to figure out life.
Police say Brown lived near the crime scenes in the Southeast Valley. They believe he shot and killed a man he knew in January during an argument. Then in May, they say he shot and killed a man who was waiting at this bus stop. In June, a second random murder. Police putting it this way.
The suspects seem to stalk the victim.
You're telling me that you are not the person who killed these 3 men?
No, sir, I'm not.
From jail Wednesday, Brown says it's not him in these suspect photos. Police say they found Brown's DNA on gloves and a jacket nearby. Brown says he bought that jacket from somebody else.
The dude lives in the neighborhood that was wearing the jacket. The dude lives in the neighborhood where I'm walking down the street. Just imagine me walking down the street, him walking down the street. Hey man, that jacket nice. Let me buy the jacket off you.
A family member telling police in June Brown wore the jacket. Police also finding other clothing items in what they called a homemade fire pit at his house.
So if you didn't do it, who did?
Pants on fire.
I want to feel right. Me, myself, putting the person's name out there.
Officers discovered a gun in Brown's underwear during his arrest. That gun, they say, is connected to at least 2 of the murders. With life in prison or the death penalty on the table if he's convicted, Brown remains insistent.
It's strange because why would an 18-year-old kid who
No remorse.
nothing besides speeding tickets just wake up one day and say, well, you know what, let me go ahead and do a homicide.
Right now, because of those 3 murder charges, Brown is being held without bail. His trial is scheduled to begin next year. Outside the Clark County Detention Center, I'm David Sharns, 8 News Now.
All right, let's take a look at the case of Benjamin Reed. Now, this was a really strange case. Let's see, where should I start? Let's start with the victim's family here.
Your name and number and a detailed message, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
It's a sound Roy Graham says he almost never hears.
At the tone, please record your message.
His daughter, Deidre Silas's phone headed to voicemail.
It's not like her. No way.
She always said, Mom, I'm going to this place, especially on my days off.
Graham and his wife, Bari, are heartbroken over the news. Their oldest daughter, now gone.
You know, she'll go get her. She's a finder. She find who they can pick up, who they can find. And she lost her life on the job.
They tell me she had a servant's heart and loved the children she helped each day. Andre Silas is Deidre's husband. He calls her the light of his life. Devastated they won't be able to grow old together and watch their children grow up.
No matter how hard it was for her, Deidre always did the right thing. She's always made the right choice, even when she didn't want to.
Their children are 2 and 5. Silas worries the youngest won't remember her mother as she gets older, and he doesn't want her death to be in vain.
There should be preventative measures in place. And if they can't use my wife's example to figure out what they need to do as far as getting that training, getting those protocols in place, then what else needs to happen?
She's gone. Never gonna come back. No way. No how.
Look at that pain. Now, wait till you see what happened to the accused, Benjamin Reed.
Thanks for being with us. First tonight, the man accused of stabbing a DCFS worker to death could learn his fate tomorrow.
Today marked day 3 of Benjamin Reed's trial. Attorneys focused on Reed's mental health and whether he can be held responsible for what happened. WAND's Hannah Flahan joins us live in studio tonight to break down what we learned. Hannah?
Sean and Alyssa, for the majority of today's trial, the prosecution and the defense questioned a psychiatrist who interviewed Reed twice after Silas's death. Dr. Terry Killian discussed the variety of mental illnesses he had been diagnosed with, including but not limited to bipolar disorder, impulse control disorder, and intermittent explosion disorder, to name a few. The courtroom was also shown one of Dr. Killian's interviews with Reed, in which he had described hearing 5 different distinct voices in his head that controlled him, and that he blacks out when they are in control. He claimed several times that he blacked out before the stabbing.
How likely do you think it is that you're the one who stabbed her? It depends on my hand, very likely.
Dr. Killian explained that Reed described waking up and seeing blood and cuts on his hands. That's when Reed went to a hospital in Decatur where he was arrested. At the end of the interview, Reed asked the doctor if he believes he's sane. The doctor confirmed that he believed that not only was Reed sane, but fit to stand trial. There's at least one more witness expected to speak tomorrow before the defense rests. The state's attorney, John Milheiser, says he expects the trial to conclude tomorrow. It will then be up to a judge to determine whether he's guilty but mentally ill, not guilty by rule of insanity, or guilty. In studio, Hannah Flake.
Illinois DCFS worker has been killed while conducting a home visit. 36-year-old Deirdre Silas was a child protection specialist. She was found stabbed to death at a home in downstate Decatur late yesterday afternoon. A suspect's in custody and charges are pending. In a statement today, Governor J.B. Pritzker called Silas a, quote, hero taken from us in the line of duty. There is no higher calling than the work to keep children and families safe. And Deirdre lived that value every single Illinois DCFS worker has been killed while conducting a
All right, you guys are going to trip out on this. So even though the experts say that he was competent to stand trial, the judge overrode that. Check this out.
Well, today was the final day in the trial for Benjamin Reed, the man charged with killing Deidre Silas, a DCFS child protective specialist who was stabbed to death back in January of 2022 inside a home in Thayer. After 4 days of testimony, the judge ultimately declared Benjamin Reed guilty of murder, but mentally ill. Reed was found guilty on all charges, which include first-degree
Listen to
murder,
what the judge
aggravated
says.
battery, and aggravated unlawful restraint. During the trial, the state argued Reed was a liar and was using his symptoms to manipulate and get away with his behavior, while the defense argued he was mentally ill, but the judge said the two things can be true at once.
Can he manipulate? Yes. Is he a manipulator? Absolutely. Did he try and do it here to gain a sanity edge? Absolutely. He sure did. Can he be a liar and a malingerer and still have documented and established mental illness? Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what they called Richard Allen, was a malingerer. You know, but that doesn't mean that he's not insane. So hopefully they're looking at everything very carefully. But in this case, it was a lot different because he blacked out. Like when he woke up after he committed the crime, he went directly to a hospital and said, "I killed this woman. I think I'm mentally unfit. There's something wrong with me, right? I just committed a murder. I'm pretty sure it was me. I don't remember." But he also was a malingerer. He was lying. He was trying to make himself seem crazier than he really was. But both things in the judge's eyes happen to be true. So this is a really strange case.
Well, the judge continued to say that 5 qualified experts testified, saying they each diagnosed him with some kind of mental health disorder in his lifetime, and that while the mental illnesses impaired his judgment during the crime, he was still aware that what he was doing was wrong. The judge added that in 27 years of practicing in Sangamon County, this is one of the most heinous crimes he has ever seen. Reed's sentencing will come in November.
So the prosecution and the defense both agreed. Both of their experts said, well, yeah, he might be out of his mind, but he's still competent to stand trial, and he was aware of what he was doing. But the judge said, nope, didn't agree with that. Very strange case. Well, we have Michael Shane Townsend and Rifkind, but I think because of time, we might have to skip. We might have to skip one of those because I want to end with the Scream murders. Oh, this is tough. We might have to do a part 2 on this. Let's go directly to the Scream murders. Let me pull up this article, and then we'll watch the video that was found that they tried to destroy. They documented their plot to murder their friend, and they had a kill list. So here, this is the murder of Cassie Jo Stoddard, and we'll end with this, so probably have another 35 minutes here. On September 22nd, 2006, Cassie Jo Stoddard, an American high school student, was murdered by her classmate, Brian Draper and Tori Adamanchik, both 16, in her aunt and uncle's house in Pocatello, Idaho, United States. Stoddard's body was discovered 2 days later when her relatives returned home from their trip. The perpetrators claimed they were inspired to murder Stoddard by the slasher film Scream, which led them being nicknamed the Scream Killers. Adamanchik and Draper recorded documentary-style videos about how they were horror movie fans, especially Scream, and wanted to reenact a similar murder in real life. Now, we're going to watch that entire video that was found. It's kind of a strange video. It looks like they recorded over themselves playing the drums and going to school and doing random things. And they kind of recorded over that, kind of discussing their plots to kill friends and other folks that they included on what they called a kill list. They started a death list of other potential victims the day Stoddard's murder, following their initial plan. Both perpetrators received sentences of life imprisonment without parole on August 31st, 2007. The perpetrators, Brian Lee Draper, Tori Michael Adamanchik, were American high school students who are currently serving life sentences for murdering their classmate Cassie Jo Stoddard, September 22nd, 2006. Background: Draper and Adamanchik were both born in 1990. Draper was born in Sandy, Utah, while Adamanchik was born and raised in Pocatello, Idaho. Draper's family eventually settled in Idaho. Cassie Jo Stoddard was a 16-year-old student at Pocatello High School. She, along with Draper and Adamanchik, were 11th graders at the school. Draper met Adamanchik when they were both sophomores at Pocatello High School. Both boys were interested in films and started recording films of their own. On the night of September 22, 2006, Stoddard was house sitting for her aunt and uncle, Allison and Frank Contreras, on Whispering Cliffs Drive in northeast Pinnock County. The Contreras family was out of town and had hired Stoddard to come take care of their 3 cats and 2 dogs for the weekend. Stoddard was visited that evening by her boyfriend, Matt Beckham, who arrived at 6 p.m. later. Classmates Brian Draper and Tori Adamanchik were both age 16 at the time, came over to the house to hang out. Stoddard gave the friends a tour of the house, including the basement. The 4 teens went into the living room to watch a film, Kill Bill, Volume 2. But Adamanchik and Draper ended up leaving before the film ended, saying they wanted to watch a movie at their local movie theater instead. Stoddard and Beckham stayed behind. Stoddard was unaware that before the boys left, Draper had unlocked the basement door so that he and Adamanchik could re-enter the house undetected. Sometime after leaving the house on Whispering Cliffs, Draper and Adamanchik returned to the neighborhood, parked down the street, got out of their car, and put on costumes consisting of dark clothing, gloves, and white painted masks. The boys quietly entered the house through the basement door while other couple was watching television in the living room. They initially made loud noises in an unsuccessful attempt to lure Beckham and Stoddard downstairs so they could scare them. Next, they found the circuit breaker and turned off the power in the house, hoping the pair would come downstairs to check the breaker. When Beckham and Stoddard did not come downstairs, the boys turned some of the lights back on. Stoddard became uneasy after the temporary power outage, and Beckham noticed that one of the Contreras dogs kept staring down the basement stairs, periodically barking and growling. Seeing that Stoddard felt scared, Beckham called his mother and asked if he could stay the night at the house with her to ease her mind, but she denied his request. Instead, she offered to let Stoddard come home with Beckham and stay at their house for the night, and she would bring Stoddard back to the Whispering Cliffs house the next morning. However, Stoddard felt that it was her responsibility to stay at the house as she was hired to do and care for the animals, and declined the offer from Beckham's mother. At approximately 10:30 p.m., Beckham's mother picked him up, leaving Stoddard at the house alone. Beckham called Adamanchik's cell phone to see where he and Draper were, possibly to meet up with them later. Beckham said he could barely hear Adamanchik, who was whispering on the phone, and assumed the boys were in the movie theater. From the basement, Draper and Adamanchik heard Beckham leave. The teens turned the lights out again at the circuit breaker and waited, hoping Stoddard would come downstairs to turn the lights back on. She did not. Eventually, the boys went upstairs. Draper was armed with a dagger-type weapon. Adamanchik had a hunting knife, the weapons having been purchased at a pawn shop. Draper opened and slammed the closet door at the top of the stairs to scare Stoddard, who was lying on the couch in the living room. The boys then brutally attacked her, stabbing her approximately 30 times. 12 wounds were potentially fatal. During the investigation, the murder police found that Draper and Adamanchik had recorded their plan to murder Stoddard in advance on videotape while they were at school. This video footage was shown at their trials. We're about to watch that now. Viewer discretion advised.
We're here in his car. The time is 9:50, September 22nd, 2006. Unfortunately, we have the grueling task of killing our 2 friends, and they are right in that house just down the street.
We just talked to them. We were there for an hour. But
we checked out the whole house. We know there's lots of doors. There's lots of places to hide. I unlocked the back doors. So it's all locked. Now we just gotta wait and Yeah. We're really nervous right now, but you know, we're ready.
We're listening to the greatest rock band
We've
ever,
waited for this for a long time.
Pink Floyd, before we commit the ultimate crime of murder.
We waited for this for a long time.
A long time.
We'll stay tuned. Just killed Cassie. We just left her house. This is not a fucking joke.
I'm shaking.
I stabbed her in the throat and I saw her lifeless body just disappear. Dude, I just killed Cassie. Oh, fuck. That felt like it wasn't real. I mean, it went by so fast.
Shut the fuck up. We gotta get our act straight.
It's okay. Okay, let's buy movie tickets now.
Okay.
Come on. Goodbye.
No.
Goodbye. We're going for a high death count.
We're not going not to get caught, Ryan. If we're going for guns, we're just gonna end it. We're just gonna grab the guns and get out of there, kill everybody and leave.
We're going to make history. We're gonna make history.
For all you FBI agents watching this, you weren't quick enough.
You weren't quick enough and you weren't smart enough. And we're going over to Nixon's house.
It's a good question, Don.
We're gonna go snoop around over there and try to see if she's home alone or not. If she's home alone, splat! She did.
Don't put your humor into this, Brian.
I'm not putting you over it. Yep. People will die. Memories will fade.
Memories will fade. I wonder what movie you got that from, Brian.
Myself. That was for myself.
No wonder it was so lame.
Okay, we're on our way, and I'll let you stay tuned. We're almost there. Dixon's house. It's clear out there in the pasture. We've already snooped around her house a couple times. She's not at home, so we're gonna go to the church over there, and we're gonna call a girl and a guy named Cassie and Matt. They're our friends, but we have to make sacrifices. So I feel tonight it is the night, and I feel really weird. It's happened to the week and stuff, and I feel like I want to kill somebody. I know that's not normal, but what the hell?
I feel we need to break away from normal life.
How bright is this light?
Because, let's put it this way. Parents, along with their parents, and so on, taught them about God, Jesus, the whole bullshit line. I'm sure you guys believe in God as well. I realized when I was in 7th grade, you don't believe in Santa Claus or vampires or werewolves. They're used to metaphor, not to they teach their kids back in the 1800s, I learned this in English class, about telling their kids that you can't go outside or a vampire will get you, just to make their kids stay and do what they want to do. God is basically the same way.
Yep.
Trying to get people to do good, or else, so-called, you go to hell.
And we're obviously going to hell if it's real, but you know what? Who gives a shit?
Yeah. And why would you
but
say
it's not real? It's not real because it's so blatantly obvious it's not real. But
people believe it because their parents teach them, and so it's so hard for them to let go of it because they've been taught their whole life.
Yeah, I know.
But fucking what the point I'm making is we are also taught that things like killing people and other thing is wrong. The only thing that it's wrong about is because it's breaking the law, and the law is only wrong. The law
Natural selection, dude.
Because
natural selection. That's all I gotta say.
There should be no law against killing people. I know it's a wrong thing, but hell, you restrict somebody from it, they're gonna want it more.
Exactly. Goodbye, camera. Not home. My friend's too pussy to go investigate. Turn here. Why are you turning there, dude? Okay. Now we're gonna go over to Cassie and Matt's house. If they're home alone, we're gonna.
Cassie's house, Matt is there.
Matt is there. Sorry. We're gonna go. We're gonna knock on the door. We'll see who's there. We'll see if their parents are home or not. If they're home alone, we will leave our way, and then we will come back in about 10 minutes. We'll sneak in through the door because chances are they're probably in Cassie's room. So we'll
exactly, Cindy. They reminded me of Columbine.
Make a noise outside. And Matt will come out to investigate, kill him, and it will scare the shit out of Cassie. Okay? Well,
sounds like fun.
We'll stay tuned. We found our victim, and sad as it may be, she's our friend. But you know what? We all have to make sacrifices. Our first victim is going to be Cassie, Stoddard, and her friends.
Turn your brights off, asshole.
Well, we'll find out if she has friends over. She's going to be alone in a big, dark house out in the middle of nowhere. How perfect can you get? I mean, like, holy shit, dude.
I'm horny just thinking about it.
Hell yeah. So we're going to fucking kill her and her friends, and we're going to keep moving on. I heard some news about Kirsten. She's going to be home alone from 6 to 7. So we might kill her, then drive over to Cassie's thing and scare the shit out of them, then kill them one by fucking one. Hell yeah.
Why one by one? Why can't it be a slaughterhouse?
2 by 2 and 3 by 3? Because we got to keep it classy. So yeah,
classy.
It's going to be extra fun.
You're evil.
Yes, I am. So are you?
No, evil is an expression of God. That was another test you failed.
Evil is not an expression of God.
Yes, it is.
It's bullshit. You know it.
Evil, the origin, is a follower of fucking Satan.
There is no
Satan. Real? Then shut up.
Then how are we supposed to express ourselves?
Good and bad.
We're bad.
We're bad.
And that sounds so shitty.
We're evil. That's not even shittier.
We're not, okay? They were sick psychopaths that get pleasure of killing other people.
That sounds good, baby.
We're gonna go down in history. We're gonna be just like Scream, except real life terms. We're gonna be murderers.
Baby.
Like, let's see, Ted Bundy, like the Hillside Strangler, the Zodiac Killer.
Those people are more amateurs compared to what we're gonna be. We're gonna be more of higher sources of
Gene. Well, except when it was that sick and that twisted.
Oh, do you know what Gene's words were?
What?
Saw a girl walking down the street, right?
Yeah.
2 questions came to his head. I could take her out, have a nice time with her.
The killer.
And show her a good time. Charm the pants off her. Or, I wonder what her head would look like on a stick.
Holy shit.
That's creepy, huh?
Holy shit. Murder is power. Murder is freedom. Goodbye.
I don't know.
That's brackish from Katie.
I wish I made it up, but it's cool. It is cool. Let's do some.
All right, we got 2 minutes.
You start out with the right foot.
Like,
Garrett and Trevor. Man, the way that would, but I really wouldn't like that.
Because then it would be all going straight and you just.
What would?
You
It's not walk behind you.
You're gonna walk behind me, dude. I'm not gonna stick with you.
Reminds me of Columbine for sure.
Dude, I was thinking about it. Actually, I was really actually gonna do it.
Oh, yeah?
I was like, what's the best thing?
Hey, look, it's Cassie.
That's Cassie right there.
Hello, Cassie. I'm getting you on tape, okay? Say hi, please.
Hi.
Okay, see ya. Wait, have you seen Tori? He's supposed to be here at 7:30, and it's 8:19.
They go on to kill her later on that night.
He's an hour late. You don't even care, dude. Okay. See ya.
Oh, dude, I totally do.
Totally do. I'm gonna go this way. Wait, there's a guys in here.
no, I think.
You guys, unfortunately, that is all my time for today. We'll work on doing a part 2 on this. But I do want to give a special shout out to all of today's sponsors, Miss Dog Lover, ×2, Amelia, and Copper Horse. I hope you guys enjoyed the information that was presented today. If you want to support my channel even further, you can always hit the Cash App. And I want to thank everybody who has been supporting me through the Cash App. And watching those numbers grow. We will be using those funds here in the near future. Once we get the drone license and we go out and help with the searches of missing folks and to bring you guys better content. So without the Sleuth crew, we are nothing. You guys are the heartbeat of this. And sorry we had to end it abruptly, but it is dinner time for me. And it's time for me to go fill my belly and spend time with the family. But I do want to thank you guys again. For supporting my channel and hanging out. If you're part of the replay crew, you know what to do. Drop a comment and we'll get back to you. If you guys need to get a hold of me for any reason, you can reach me at sleuthintuition@gmail.com. Hopefully you guys have a good rest of your night. Peace.